Yes, Meera and Upasna, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay, did you receive the notes of ray optics and modern physics?
Yes, ma'am.
yes,
Okay. Please go through the notes. Modern physics, the entire modern physics unit is there in those notes. The three chapters, your atomic structure, your nuclear physics, and of course your dual nature. So I'll start with that today. Let us first complete the remaining portion of wave optics. So yesterday we stopped at this point where we were seeing the uh, entire YDSC experiment dipped in water, right? That question we were doing. So what did we study? Whenever the medium changes, your beta medium means the fringe width of that medium becomes 1 by n times the fringe width of air. That's what we have seen. Now, let us continue with the question. One question was left from this part. This you have done. Yesterday you wrote this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One question from your 2025 paper, 23rd Jan. This says the width of one of the two slits in Young's double slit experiment is D, while that of other slit is XD. Okay. Now, if the ratio of the maximum to minimum intensity in the interference pattern on the screen is 9:4, what is the value of this X? This is what is asking the value of this X. Now, class, first of all, when you have this maximum to minimum, yesterday we have studied about this intensity. So yes, Upasna, tell me what's the formula of the maximum intensity?
Root I1 plus root I2 the whole square.
Root I1 plus root I2 whole square. And minimum is root I1 minus I2 whole square. And Meera, how are intensity and amplitude related?
intensity is directly proportional to amplitude square.
Yes. So here also, when we are talking about the width of the slit, in the case of slit width also, intensity is directly proportional to the square of slit width. So this is saying one, if I is given one, it is saying width is D. Second is X times D. So one we are going to take as D, second we are going to take as XD. It is saying the intensity is pattern, means maximum to minimum. It is saying I maximum by I minimum is what? This is 9/4. Means as Upasna answered, root I2 plus root I1 whole square divided by root I2 minus root I1 whole square. This is given to us, right? So what we can do, if we take the root over the opposite side, because see, this square is directly, if you take the slit width, what is the slit width equal to? From here, slit width is equal to root of I. Correct. So means we can replace the intensities with the values of slit width, right? One is given as X, other is given as X. No, one is given as D, other is given as X. One is given as X, one is given as D, other is given as XT. So when you have this relationship, I is directly proportional to square of the width of the slit. What you can do, you can simply use D square I for the first and X square D square I for the second. That will also work, right? You can use, see, one method, what you can do is simply use D square I, and for the second one, use D square I, like this. That is also going to work, right? Or what you can do, simply we can use the formula as Upasna mentioned using this under root I1 plus I2 whole thing. So let's remove the square. If you remove the square, what you will be left with? Root I2 plus root I1 divided by root I1 minus I2. So I1 minus I2. Root I1 minus root I2. What will it be equal to?
81 by 16.
It will be equal to, yes, Meera?
3 by 2.
3 by 2, right. 9 by 4, this is 9 by 4. So this will be 3 by 2, correct. Now, instead of I1, see, you take 1 as D, take other as XD, because you've already taken root. See, root can be written as slit width now. From this relation, you can write it as slit width directly. So just take this. Let us just directly take this. This is equal to root I1, root I2. We can say D is equal to root I1. We can say XD is now equal to root I2 because their square is equal to the intensity. Let us just put this. So this will be XD plus D divided by XD minus D is equal to 3 by 2. We can take D common. So this will be X plus 1 D divided by X minus 1D is equal to 3 by 2. DD will be cancelled. So you just get an equation. This will be 3x minus 3 is equal to 2x plus 2. So this way x is equal to 3 plus 2, 5. Got this?
Yes.
Yes.
So see, many questions in JEE have come from this intensity part. That's why I made you write this as important also. Please revise this intensity and this amplitude thing perfectly. The resultant of amplitude. You can see the recent papers of 2nd April, 3rd April. They also have the questions from intensities from wave optics. Young's double slit experiment includes this intensity part. So this is very important. Please write this. Then we'll see 1 or 2 questions more.
Done, ma'am.
Both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. C class. Now this there's a question that came once in your 2019 paper that was based on this topic. When YDSC is compared with a glass slab, means with the glass slab, the whole experiment of Young's double slit is performed, right? So delta X here is a delta X slab means the path difference of the slab is taken as refractive, mu is the refractive index, -1 into T. Okay, so from T from here will always remain as whatever is the path difference is equal to mu -1. Then the path difference's formula is y small d into, divided by capital T. But when you have to calculate the separation of the central maxima, this is written as, see, we always write this as delta x d by d. So delta x is mu -1t d by d. And then you have beta as lambda d by d. So this is all. Fringe width doesn't change, but this is important. YCM and this delta X slab. This is very important. This can come as it is. And in one question, you will notice it has come as it is. Let me show you the question. Yeah, look at it. In a double slit experiment, when a thin film of thickness T having refractive index mu is introduced in one of the slits, the maximum at the center of the fringe pattern shifts by one fringe, right? This shifts by one fringe. The value of T is lambda is the wavelength used. What is it asking? What is it asking us? See, this is direct question from here only. See, what is your YCM equal to? Your YCM is equal to mu -1 T capital D by small d. Now it is saying from here, see, and what is your beta equal to? Beta will remain the same. Remember, capital lambda capital D by small d. Okay, this won't change. Now this is asking you, this is telling you in a double slit experiment, when a thin film of thickness T, this T is what we have to find out. This is the thickness T. Okay, this thickness T having the refractive index mu, so mu also is given. The maximum at the center of the fringe pattern shifts by one fringe width. Means what's the fringe width given? What is the value of beta given? Beta is given as 1. Got it? This value of beta is given as 1. One fringe width. Okay. Value of T used is. Okay. You have to tell what's the value of T used. From here, see. YCM is not given at the center. YCM is not given. We can directly use the formula delta X also. Delta XCM is mu -1 into T. So delta XCM, what is it given? How much has the path shifted? That is 1. So you can simply put this as 1. 1 is equal lambda. Sorry, this is given. The wavelength of the light that is used is given as lambda. So this will be, you can put this as lambda, right? See, from here also, if you want, you can put the value of lambda here. Your mu -1 into T, this is equal to y d by d. From the interference experiment, we can say this whole XCM is equal to what? We write change in the path difference as y into small d by capital D. So equate these two equations. What will you get? Mu -1 into T is equal to y small d by capital D. Correct. And what is the value of y from here? See, you know, beta is already lambda capital D by small d, which is equal to 1. So you can write the value of capital D by small d from here. Correct. So what will be the thickness? Simply the wavelength. This whole is equal to the wavelength now. Right. Look here. From here, this whole is equal to the wavelength. So mu -1 into T is equal to lambda. So thickness will be lambda divided by mu minus 1. Third option. Got this question?
Yes, ma'am.
Write it. Then we'll start with polarization.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay. Let's start with polarization. So see, polarization basically means when the light is unpolarized. Unpolarized means that a light is present, light wave. I'm talking about a particle of that wave. It is oscillating in every direction. Okay, just perpendicular to the direction of propagation. Like if this is the particle, this is propagating here also, here also, here also, here also, in all the different directions like this. Okay, the particle is propagating. This is what is unpolarized light. Like you can take the example light emitted by the sun or lamp. So what is an unpolarized light? It's a light wave in which electric field oscillates in every direction perpendicular to the direction of propagation. Like if the wave's direction is propagating like this is not the electromagnetic wave. Electromagnetic waves are always perpendicular. This is propagating, this is moving in every direction. So what happens in order to make it confined to just one plane? Like I don't want it to move in all these directions. I just want it to move in one plane. Let's say y xy plane. If I wanted to move in the xy plane, right? So I will just want it. I will just want that it should be along xy plane only, like this. The particle should oscillate. Electric field of the particle should just oscillate like this. Right now it is oscillating like this, here also, here also, here also, here also, here also, like this. But I just want now it to oscillate like this only. So we use some devices like analyzers and polarizers. What they do, they confine just one direction of the field. So now what will happen? Suppose I just wanted to move up and down like this, only along x and y plane like this. Rest of it I don't want. So this conversion, now this light which is oscillating in just one confined plane, perpendicular to the direction of propagation, this is called as a polarized light. And this one which where the electric field was propagating in different directions was the unpolarized light. So this process of converting this unpolarized light into polarized means the one which was moving in all the different planes, electric field. Now we want the electric field to just move in one plane. It could be like this also, YZ plane. See, YZ, it's moving in YZ plane, or XZ plane, or YZ plane, but in just one plane, not all these planes simultaneously, not like this. So this process is called polarization. So everything is written here. You can have a look later. So look, this is a light source. This is unpolarized light in every direction. If you produce a polarizing filter, so only along this direction the light rays will be able to pass through. So what will happen as a result? The polarized light will be formed, means it will be traveling only in one direction, one plane. This is what is polarized light. So what we do, we use a polarizer and an analyzer. So polarizer does what? It reduces the intensity to half. So first what happens? This is the unpolarized light coming, the intensity reduces to half. And then we shift the analyzer to an angle for which we require the rays to come. Okay. So when the analyzer is kept, suppose the rays, the plain polarized lights have come like this, and I keep the analyzer like this. So all the rays will pass, I'll get maximum light. Suppose the rays are coming like this. I have polarized it and I want the rays to be propagating like this. Earlier it was unpolarized. Now using a polarizer, I've made the light propagate like this. But if I keep the analyzer like this, will the light rays be able to pass? No. If the light rays are like this, then only they'll be able to pass it. So that's why we take this angle as theta, and you're getting no light here. You're getting maximum light here. Because polarizer and analyzer, they are kept exactly in the direction of the polarized light. So here you don't get any light. So whatever is this angle, there's a law that is called the Malus law. So first the intensity becomes the half of the peak. And then for the calculation of the subsequent intensities, you use the formula I naught divided by 2 cos square theta. What is this Malus law? You can check here. See, this is the law of Malus named after the scientist. According to this law, when completely plain polarized light is incident on the analyzer, the intensity of the light transmitted by the analyzer is directly proportional to square of cosine of angle between transmission axis of analyzer and polarizer. In short, this angle of the analyzer and its axis, take this as theta. And remember, you just have to apply I is equal to I naught by 2 cos square theta. Why I naught by 2? Because the light has already reduced by half to its intensity when it crosses the polarizer. So it's like a device. You have seen Polaroid cameras, Polaroids images. You must have seen somewhere, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So those work upon this only, polarizers and analyzers. All right. So are you getting this? What is this whole process of polarization?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Basically, light particles, if they are not confined, when they are allowed to move, they are moving in different planes. Okay, like this also, along this axis, along this axis, along this plane, like this, in different directions, the particles are moving. You want the particle to propagate along any plane, but just one plane at a time. You want it to move, suppose, let's say XY plane. This is the XY plane like this. So what will you do? If a light ray is coming like this, and like this, and like this in different direction, and if you have kept a filter which allows only these rays to pass, so what will happen? Eventually, the rays which were passing like this, they won't be able to go through it. They won't be coming. So eventually these will only come and go. So you will see only one plane. This work is done by the polarizer and analyzer. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just remember these special cases. These special cases mean that they have directly come in your exam. So I've not made a special question out of it. When your theta is 0, means from here, the intensity becomes maximum because cos theta becomes 1. 1 square is 1. That is I by 2. And when you want to have the lowest value of intensity, means you don't want any ray to come to you. You put the analyzer perpendicular. You can imagine it also. If the ray is coming like this, you have kept the analyzer like this, ray won't go. And if you have kept it parallel, all the ray will be able to pass through it exactly. So that's why you're getting I by 2. Why I by 2? Because half of intensity has been reduced by the polarizer itself. That's why I by 2. If I is coming, I exactly will come. But if you keep on increasing this angle, some rays will come, some rays will come, like this, like this. Eventually, when you make it perpendicular to this, what will happen? These particles which are present, they'll not be able to pass. So that becomes 0. Got these special cases?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now there's a concept of polarization by reflection. So basically the sunlight ray that comes, or any ray that comes, which is unpolarized. Okay. So there's a process of refraction that takes and the reflection that takes. So this is what is polarization by reflection and refraction. See, if this ray gets, the unpolarized ray, if it gets refracted, so this is the process of refraction, normal. Just like the normal polarized ray or the normal rays which we talk, they pass through. So nothing is new here. This angle is our angle of refraction. Here, this is angle. But if there is a certain angle at which the polarized rays, see, every ray will not be polarized from here. Only those at which you have placed the polarizer and analyzer, those rays will only be passed. What about the rest of the rays which were oscillating in different directions? They get refracted through the surface. So that's why it is written, these are unpolarized rays. You can see here, these are unpolarized rays. The unpolarized light came, it refracted, unpolarized. But the ones which you placed, you wanted to confine it to one place, the plane polarized light. What happens? This also gets strikes to the plane surface and it gets reflected also. So here the process of reflection occurs. But what's the point here? These are polarized rays. And here in the process of refraction, these are unpolarized rays. So here also you apply the whole angle of this angle of incidence is called angle of polarization also. And this is angle of refraction. But what's the speciality about this? Like, why are we studying this? This is normal laws of refraction and reflection. So why are we studying this separately? Brewster gave a law. He said that the angle between the unpolarized light and the polarized light is what? 90 degrees. Okay, this is something what you need to know. So I plus R plus 90 is 180, R will be 90 minus I. So in short, you use tan I. This question directly comes, it will be equal to N2 by N1. Because this is the derivation, you can check. This is using your Snell's law only because one of the angles is 90 minus R. We take this, no, this angle can be taken as 90 minus theta. What is this I? This is the Brewster's angle. Okay, this tan I is Brewster's angle. All right, this is what is important, which is N2 by N1. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Just to write down this first Malus law, this part, special cases, and just write down this formula. Okay, rest of the things you will receive because these will be needed right now. Please write them. Just write down this Brewster's law and let me know.
Done, ma'am.
Okay. Then let's come to the question. Okay, this is a question from your 2023's paper. This is saying two Polaroids A and B are placed in such a way that the pass axes of Polaroids are perpendicular to each other. Okay, so see, Polaroids axes are perpendicular to each other means this normal case only when two Polaroids are kept like this. So if a light ray is coming with some intensity I, till here at the first point, what will be the intensity? after this polarizer?
I by 2.
I by 2.
I by 2. Let's say this is peak is I naught by 2. It is saying now another Polaroid C is placed between A and B, bisecting the angle between them. Earlier, if the angle was 90 degree, now what will be the angle?
45 degree.
Perfect, 45 degree, very good. So this is now put like this, somewhat like this, where this is 45 degrees. Then it is saying, if intensity of unpolarized light is I, then intensity of transmitted light after passing through the Polaroid will be. Okay, C class. Two Polaroids A and B are such that the pass axis of Polaroids are perpendicular to each other. In that case, means Polaroid and analyzer, the intensity that is coming to us first is I naught by 2. We know this. It is saying, see, if they are placed perpendicular to each other, this was when this is when the light has only passed through the polarizer. This is we take by default only. Now, in the first case, they are put perpendicular to each other, right? And it is saying now another Polaroid C is placed between A and B, bisecting the angle. So as rightly answered, this will be 45 degree. So IC, what will IC be? We have studied this is square I naught by 2 cos square 45 degrees. What will it be? Yes.
1 by I naught by 4.
I naught by 4, right. So this is I naught by 4, but is it asking us for C? This is C. Somewhere here B is present, right? First, this is A, this is B, this is C. Now the rays have passed, since C has come, it has reduced the intensity to I naught by 4. Now the ray will again move with the angle 45 degree, right? So it is not asking us C. If the C was the answer, this would have been the final answer. It is saying intensity through B. C is placed between A and B. So now what will happen? This will further be reduced. Are you getting it?
Yes.
So finally through B, because see A and B were perpendicular to each other like this. This is A, this is B, C was put like this. So this angle became 45 degree. So we got I naught by 4. Now this angle is also 45 degree because 45 plus 45 will only make 90. Leftover is also 45. So we have to apply the same thing. IC is how much? I naught by 4 into cos square 45. So that becomes I naught by 8. So I naught by 8 will be the answer. Just this is not put like this. This is actually put like this. Like this. See, A and B have this angle. This is A, this is B. Their angle is 90 degree. Right? This is what is saying they are perpendicular. Then it is saying C is placed in a way that it is bisecting. So till here the polarizer got the intensity to I naught by 2, which we know, which we have studied in the theory part. Now this angle is 45, so it becomes I naught by 4 here. Then again this angle is 45, so till the light rays come to B, it becomes I naught by 8. Got this?
Yes.
Please write it, then we'll discuss diffraction.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, both of you?
Done, ma'am.
All
Yes.
right. Let's start with diffraction. This is the last topic from wave optics. I'll just share the notes after this. What is this process of diffraction? Diffraction is the one more thing. Who is having the exam day after tomorrow?
I have it, ma'am.
Okay, Upasna, you have. All right. So diffraction is the deviation of waves from straight line propagation without the any change in their energy due to obstacle or through an aperture. Basically, if there is an aperture, we have studied that light travels in a straight line. Okay, light travels in a straight line with a speed 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. But one phenomena is observed when obstacles are present. So the light ray, instead of passing straight, they bend a little. This is not a refraction. They bend because of the obstacle. So this path deviation, this is called diffraction. This is not superposition of waves. This can occur through one slit only. Like if a slit is there, one slit is there, this will act as the obstacle. So diffraction basically through single slit will be asked. Okay, so this is what is diffraction. Diffraction is the deviation of light of wave from single propagation, straight line propagation, without the change in energy. This is not your refraction. Okay, because of obstacle or the aperture like the single slit, the light rays bend. And it creates, see, if the light rays are bending, this creates a geometrical shadow over here. Okay, this creates a geometrical shadow. This process is called diffraction. So it depends upon this aperture. So see, in single slit diffraction, it's easier than your concept of Young's double slit experiment. There, two slits were there, right? So same thing, just one slit. See, this is the monochromatic light source. From here, the waves will come. They'll pass through this single slit, screen with a single narrow slit. The waves will propagate and they'll again create those fringes. There are differences between the intensities of the fringes of the diffraction and interference. The diffraction pattern intensity is like this, it keeps on decreasing. So here also you get a central maxima, which is the bright light, and it keeps on getting decreased. Like in YDSE, all the fringes we were getting were constant. Intensity was constant, right? Here the intensity keeps on decreasing and it fades, and the maxima minima, they become very slow like this. This is what is exactly the graph also. So you get first maxima, then on either side you get first maxima. Then second maxima on either side of central maxima, third maxima. Like remember, we discussed that central maxima is present in interference. Then you have the first dark like this on both the sides. Then you have first bright on both the sides. Remember, we did a question also where the separation of fourth bright on either sides was 2.4 meter. Here also, you have the central maxima. Then here again, you will have the first minima on both the sides, first minima. Then here also, again, you will get first maxima on both the sides, first maxima. Then you will get second minima on both the sides like this. But intensity will keep on decreasing. This can be done at home also. If you have comb, the narrow slits of the comb are sufficient. You just take one of the slits, wrap the comb with a black tape or something, and then use a laser light, you will be able to obtain this interference pattern of diffraction pattern on screen, like just a board or something. You'll be able to see it. Got this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now formula part. For the nth minima, we write a sine theta is equal to n lambda. A is equal to y by dc. Variables are same. Everything is the same. It's just that one slit is there, diffraction is there, and the mechanism behind is different. Rest of it is same. So that's why I've not written much over here. Just one or two things I've written. Width of central maxima is 2 lambda d by a. Width of the rest means rest of the minima. Minima or maxima is lambda d by a. Width of the rest means this. That's why I've marked an asterisk. Because there once came a question just as it is from this. Okay, we have two questions, but before that, just write down these formula for diffraction. Okay, then we'll start with this. Two questions are left, and I'll start with your modern physics. And please revise those notes today. Tomorrow we'll have our last class. Has sir taken today's class?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, you'll have the class, I think, after this class. He'll be taking class. So I think your physics part is only left. Maths and chemistry are already over. So tomorrow, we'll just do the practice of questions from your 2025 paper. A lot of questions have come from modern physics. Today also we'll be doing from day before yesterday's paper. I've seen two questions came in the second shift of 3rd April. So we'll be discussing those questions tomorrow. So for that, you need to revise the modern physics notes which I've sent. So just revise it today so that your modern physics is done. Please write this, then we'll start with the questions.
Done.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, let's discuss one good question from 2022 paper. This says sodium light of wavelength 650 nanometer and 655 nanometer is used to study diffraction at a single slit of aperture 0.5. What is this aperture? A that we write in this. Because here the slit width is not there. The separation between both the slits as we used to do in the diffraction interference. So this A that I have written there in the formula, that is your slit aperture only. Distance between the slit and the screen is this 2 millimeters, 2 meters. That is your capital D, similar to the previous case. It is saying the separation between positions of the first maxima of diffraction pattern obtained in the two cases is separation between position of first maxima. So what has happened when 650 nanometer light is showered and 655? What are the wavelengths? One is 655 nanometer, second wavelength is 655 nanometer. So number of maxima it has given us first, right? So it is rest of it aperture is 0.5 millimeters. Capital D is given as 2 meters, right? And it is saying the separation between the positions of the first maxima of diffraction pattern obtained in the two cases. Means two cases means when the light of 650 nanometer is showered and then when 655 nanometer is showered. So see, when you obtain this pattern here on the screen, here you get a central maxima. On either side, you will get first minima. Okay. First, you will have first minima. Then after first maxima, what we'll get? Second minima. Right. After first minima, then only you will have second minima. In between this, what you will get?
First maximum.
First maxima.
First maxima. Exactly. This will be first maxima because the question has asked us about first maxima, right? That's why we are, and we have no information how to start with. So we are going, okay, one by one. From the central maxima, these are the first minima. This will be the first maxima, means it will be somewhere near the midpoint. This will be somewhere near the midpoint. So see, this separation is lambda capital D by small a. Correct? For the first minima. For the second minima, this separation, this total separation, this will be 2 lambda D by a. Right? This is lambda D by a, that is 2 lambda D by a. So now how to calculate this first maxima? You know this. You know from the central maxima, this is central maxima, this is first minima. This somewhere here, let's say, is your second minima. Using the formula of minima only we'll get. No need to remember the formula of maxima and get this, though you can apply this. But how we will apply this is, see, your first maxima would be somewhere here in the midpoint. Till here, have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So if I know this distance is 2 lambda capital D by A, and this distance I know is lambda capital D by A. So for the midpoint, I should calculate the average. I should calculate the average of this distance. So how will I calculate this y? Y will be calculated as lambda capital D by A plus this 2 lambda capital D by A divided by 2. So this will be equal to 3 lambda capital D by, got it? You can use, just a second. Let me reshare this. Just, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So you can use this. Or see, why did I go by this method? Just to tell you, if you don't have any information about the minimum or maximum, because we didn't discuss it over there. Otherwise, use the formula 2n plus 1. That is going to do good. 2n plus 1 lambda capital D by, right? This is going to be 2a, sorry. This is going to be helpful for the maximum. So see, now you've understood this, you can directly use this formula. This I just told you just in case if you don't know, if you don't have any information about any maxima or minima, right? Like it clearly mentioned as the first maxima. So we could have used this formula. You use it, you will again get 3 lambda capital D by 2 from the formula directly. Okay. So if you have no information about the slits, which you are going to calculate, and you just have the info, so you start from the basic, from central maxima, calculate first minima, then you calculate second minima. If you want in between, you calculate the average. Again, if something is missing, you go ahead and you calculate the average. Okay. This method use on in such kinds of questions, don't use the method. In such kinds of questions, just directly go by the formula. Y maxima as the formula 2n plus 1 lambda capital D by 2a. When you put the value n as 1, this will be 3 lambda capital D by 2a. Directly you will get the value. So this you can put 3 into lambda is, here you have you have to take the differences between the two. So the difference that you have to take will be lambda 2 minus lambda 1. Here you are going to take 3 lambda 2 minus lambda 1 capital D by 2a. It's like for the first wave, you are going to put lambda 2. For the second wave, you're going to put lambda 1 and then you're going to take the difference. So eventually these things will be taken out common and these will be left. So now you can, for this question, directly use this formula. That method I have just told you because we didn't discuss it above if such question comes in the exam. So lambda capital D is 2 meter. This is 2 into aperture is given as 0.5 millimeter is 10 to the power minus 3. 655 minus 650 into 10 to the power minus 9 also I'm taking. So that will be 5 only. So 2 getting cancelled. This is 3 into 10 to the power minus 9 by 0.5 into 10 to the power minus 3. into 5. This gets cancelled. This is 0.1. So this is 3 into 10 to the power minus 5 meters. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Just write down this part as a note point in this only. You will get the same answer though from this also. But whenever you have such simple questions where you have the minimum mentioned, right? Maximum mentioned, and you know the separation, then you can directly go for the formula for both of them. Just write it. One more question we'll discuss.
Done, ma'am.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. One last question from this. In a double slit experiment, green light 5303 angstrom falls on a double slit having a separation of 19.44 micrometer and a width of 4.05 micrometer. Means the separation is 19.44 micrometer and the width is given as 4.05 micrometer. It is asking the number of bright fringes between the first and the second diffraction minima. See, there's a formula for it. Number of fringes between this, the question between the first and second diffraction minima. Let's say this is some n. N is equal to theta by theta dash. Means first and second. So what is theta? Theta is the angular width. Let me write it here only. Theta is the angular width the way you have done it in the interference part. Between first and second diffraction minima. So this theta will be equal to lambda by A. Okay. This, what is this theta dash that I have taken? This theta dash is angular fringe width due to the double slit. It has said, na, the question in a double slit. So this is angular width between, due to double slit only, I'll write. So that you will, from the term double slit, you know, this you have done already. Angular width due to double slit. Yes, tell me, what is the formula of this? This you have done in interference. What is the angular width due to double slit?
Lambda by D.
Yes, Upasna?
Lambda by D.
Yes, very good. This is lambda by D. So now you can apply in the above formula, that is n is equal to, so it will be lambda by A divided by lambda by D. D will go up, lambda gets cancelled, D by A. So 19.44 micrometer, let's put it, divided by 4.05. Yeah, 4.05 divided by 4.05 micrometer. This will be cancelled and n will be equal to 5. Did you get this? This was a combination
Yes.
from your interference and diffraction. The Young's double slit experiment is what you have done, which Upasna answered. And this is from the diffraction part. Is it clear to both of you?
Yes.
Okay, please write it down. And I'm
Yes.
just coming in 5 minutes. I have to pray. So what you do, this was the last part of wave optics. Just go through wave optics also after this. If you have to ask anything, you can ask. The screen will be scrolled, so you can just copy down. And then I'll start with your dual nature chapter. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, class? Done?
Yes, ma'am. Done.
Any doubts? Anything you want to ask from wave optics?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay, then let's start with the final unit. See, semiconductors, sir, Azam sir will take. Okay, so semiconductors he'll be taking. Your entire electrostatics is finished, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So the last 2 units are left. Your electronics unit will be done by sir, and this modern physics will be done by me. Okay, so your 12th part will be over. And vectors already sir has done in the starting. So see, let's start with this. See, I have given you the notes. For the modern physics part, I'm discussing few things which I found very important and they were not written well in those notes. Okay. Atomic structure and nuclear physics, they are exactly as it is in the notes present, which are equivalent to your JEE exam. In your dual nature of matter and radiation, I hope you know 3 chapters are included in your modern physics unit. So the dual nature part, some of the things are related to your thermal physics of class 11th, where your reflectivity, absorption coefficient and all these are included, because this is related to the light's absorption and all. So those things I have included separately here. Otherwise, rest of the whole theory, definition and everything. Few graphs I have taken separately, those have come directly in the exam in your previous years, 2019, 2018, these papers. The recent papers I'll be discussing with you. Okay, now how we will go about with this unit is that right now I'll discuss the theoretical part of modern physics and I'll do some questions of modern physics also. We'll complete that today. Atomic structure and nuclear structure, because they are exactly the same as that of your board syllabus. And if you see the paper this year also, the questions have come directly from the back exercise. We'll discuss all those questions. So it's better that if you study the whole theoretical part by yourself tonight, and tomorrow when we'll have the class, we'll practice lots of questions. 2025's paper we'll be solving, means whatever questions have come from these, I'll show you the questions also, and the past questions also that we have to do. But modern physics questions from all these Jan paper and the April paper, yesterday's paper I have not seen, I'll see today. So these questions are enough by themselves. So we have to practice the latest ones first, that will cover your basics part. But for that, see, I require you to study. So you need to revise it and come, because you'll not understand anything. And we don't have much time that I should devote these 2 hours in discussing the basics of the modern physics, which you can already study by yourself. Those notes are already elaborated and in depth. Every definition is there, and formula, derivation, everything is present. Those which of the things can come in your JEE and not present in the notes have been mentioned in these notes, which I will share as the PDF. So you need to revise and come tomorrow. Tomorrow would be your last class for the JEE, right? And Meera will have one extra day for preparation. So is it clear? Will you be able to revise and manage?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just go through the notes if you have
Yes,
any
ma'am.
doubts and query. Tomorrow I'll take it. Let me start with this. So see, first thing that remains the basic for your entire modern physics and your quantum physics is the Einstein theory. So Einstein theorized that the energy in each quantum of light was equal to the frequency of light multiplied by a constant, which we now know is the Planck's constant. So E is equal to h nu, which is equal to hc by lambda, is very important. A photon above a threshold frequency has the required energy to eject a single electron, creating the observed effect. Now we know what is this effect. Photoelectric effect, right? Now we know this process is photoelectric effect. You need to remember this value of Planck's constant, 6.63 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule seconds. Also, this value, see, till here this value is sufficient for your school exams. Till your school exams, this value is sufficient. But in your entrances, most of the questions have to be answered in electron volt, the unit of energy. Electron volt in your semiconductors and your modern physics. These 2 units, in these 2 chapters have the SI unit rather than joule, electron volt is considered. So we'll also be considering electron volt much, and you will notice that when you see the questions, most of the questions are written in electron volt, because you divide the answer by 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, it gets simplified and you get the electron volt unit as one electronic charge. This electronic charge itself is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. So whenever you have to convert electron volt into joule, you use this relation. But for your benefits, it's very much helpful if you remember 4.14 into 10 to the power minus 15 electron volt as the unit. If you remember this unit in electron volts, most of your calculations will become easier. So Planck's constants, this value as well, I'll suggest for your JEE exam, remember this value also, because you have to answer most of the things in electron. Then you have mass energy equivalence, which is very important for your entrance. This came in your 2025's paper exactly, this exact energies equation. You know, energy E is equal to mc square, the basic equation which is mass, which describes the mass and energies relationship. So how mass and energy are related? E is equal to mc square. What is C here?
Speed of light.
Speed of light. This is the speed of light, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Also, see, you know what's the formula of momentum, Meera?
Mass into velocity.
Mass into velocity, correct. So if I write this energy, this is mass into velocity. Right now we are talking the speed is the speed of light, that is C. So if I write this equation as m into c, so this becomes momentum. So from there we have this equation E is equal to PC, and both of these are important. If the rest mass of electron is considered, see, in your electrostatics, I don't know whether you've discussed the properties or not. When you differentiate between a charge and a mass, the basic differences, see, first difference is of course that mass is only positive or zero, and charges can be positive, negative, and zero. It means charges have one extra property of being negative. One more thing is that charges do not depend on speed, but masses do depend on speed. In your 11th class, there's a formula. The mass of particle is equal to the rest mass divided by under root 1 minus v square by c square, where m naught is the resting mass. So since your charges travel with a very high speed, like they can overcome this speed of light, so this v is very high in that case. That's why masses do not depend on, the charges do not depend on the speed. But the mass of any particle, mass has the dependency on speed using this relationship. So when the rest mass is included, you are going to include this formula, means PC. So basically, then the modified equation of this same equation becomes E square is equal to PC whole square, means this energy, as well as we are going to add the energy of the rest mass also. Means when the mass is at rest mass means the speed is very less. When this denominator becomes very less, this whole ratio becomes insignificant. So 1 minus a very insignificant ratio, that gives you a value of rest mass. So E square is equal to PC whole square plus M naught C square whole square, means you are going to add the energy of the particle first, photon, electron, whatever particle is given, with the addition of the rest mass. You're going to apply this equation where the mass is going to be the rest mass, and this equation has directly come as it is in your this year's paper. So is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
This is something extra. So just write down this, write down the value of Planck's constant, write this in your notes, though I'll share the notes rest of it just for the numericals that we discuss.
Done, ma'am.
Done?
Yes.
Okay. Then this question has also come, and this comes a lot, the number of photons. Though the formula is very easy, number of photons is power divided by energy. Now, energy is not a very small concept. Energy has different formula. The first formula is H is equal to E is equal to H nu or Hc by lambda. Nu means the frequency, lambda means the wavelength. So you can modify this, and the formula for the number of photons can be this. Like if you have the wavelength and you have the power and number of photons are asked, then use this. If you know the frequency and power, number of photons are asked, use this. If you have to calculate the power and number of photons are mentioned, you have the frequency or wavelength, use this. Means power will be number of photons into energy. This formula is also helpful, and this comes in the exam. In case if you have intensity given, if it's a tough question, though this intensity part has not been asked yet, you can use, see, power is intensity. Intensity is power per unit area. If you remember, we have done this. Intensity is power per unit area. So power from here will be intensity multiplied by area. So if a question relates to intensity and you see diameter is given, something like this, if the question is very lengthy or what, you can apply this formula, IA lambda by H. See, basically, what is this formula? You are using your basics only. If you know this, you can just modify the equation and write anything. Main equation is this, which you should remember. The rest of it, you can form it by yourself. Now, coming to the equations that I was talking about, which relates with your thermal physics of class 11, are these two equations. The radiation force comes sometimes and radiation pressure comes. This is radiation pressure. So this is the intensity multiplied to area, that is the power. 1 plus R, reflectivity. See, every material, so I'm not going into the details of this because this is already a vast concept from your thermal physics, thermal properties of matter class 11. So some things can be related with that because your black body absorption and all are related with the absorption of light. So when a light ray falls on the surface, it can be, three processes can occur when this happens. First is that the light ray can get reflected. So the process that takes place is reflection. For reflection, you can just remember like a coefficient reflectivity is present to just describe it. And then process is absorption. That is absorptivity is represented by A. Or the last is that this can be transmitted. Okay, this ray can be transmitted. So third process is transmission, which is represented by T. This R plus A plus T is equal to 1. So see, these things we'll discuss in thermal physics. This is not very important right now, but just an overview if you are able to recall. So that reflectivity's relation with the radiation force is this IA 1 plus R by C, where C is the speed of light only. This is the same speed of light. And for pressure, see, if you divide this force by area, you will get pressure. So same thing, radiation pressure is I 1 plus R by C. Is it clear till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Just quickly write down these also, number of photons and till here. Then you have the basic photoelectric effect we'll discuss.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now this photoelectric effect, this is a very simple phenomena that occurs. There were experiments conducted, the evacuated tube experiment. Just have a look at that. That is there in the notes, you can see. So what happens is when the light rays strike, of various processes are there by which electrons can be ejected. You have thermionic emission, when the heat of sufficient wavelength falls on it, then electrons are ejected. You have a process secondary emission. Like if this electron is moving, this collides with this collides with this, and suppose this gets ejected. This is called secondary emission. So likewise, when the electric field, cold cathode rays are there, cold cathode rays eject the electrons, that is field emission. So you have various types of emissions. Okay, you have thermal emission, you have secondary emission, you have field emissions. Secondary. These are the three types of emissions. Rest apart from photoelectric emission. Thermal means heat rays are falling, they are allowing the electrons to get ejected. Secondary means electron was not supposed to get out of it, but since the electrons keep on colliding within themselves, within the surface of the metal, so their collision can lead to ejection of electron. This is called secondary emission. Field emission means cold cathode rays that is producing electric field, they are allowing the electrons to. So these are the different types of emissions. Then what happens if a light ray of which is coming, the photons, basically the photons, the sunlight rays which we see, when photons hit of suitable wavelength, suitable frequency, suitable energy, we say, then what happens? Then also electrons get ejected. Now, this process isn't simple as it appears to be. These rays which are coming, these incident rays, these are the incident rays. They have their own wavelength, they have their own frequency, they have their own energy. When these electrons which are present, they have a criteria. Like it's like the cutoff. Like for your JEE exam, there will be a cutoff. If that cutoff is crossed, if you are reaching the score, you will be able to get the admission. But if you're getting a low score, you are not able to reach the cutoff value, you will not be able to get admission. So this is like this only. Electrons have some things fixed. There's a fixed wavelength. What is this wavelength called? You all know? Threshold wavelength. Threshold wavelength, a fixed frequency, that is threshold frequency. Threshold means the maximum limit. In normal terms, threshold means the maximum limit. And the maximum energy or the minimum energy, sorry, not the maximum, minimum energy that is required, which is called work function. So when these criteria are met by this incident photon, the electrons get ejected. And this process is called photoelectric emission. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Similarly, we have the stopping potential also, but we'll discuss that later. So rest of the theory part, please see properly from the notes and we'll discuss that tomorrow. Einstein's photoelectric equation. This is very important. See, what Einstein said that only this equation that we see till here we knew that if E is equal to h nu and we want to calculate the energy of this photon or energy of this electron, we can use h into nu naught. Naught is symbol for the threshold. So we will modify these also. We are going to write this as lambda naught means threshold wavelength. As soon as I put this naught, this means threshold frequency. Incident wavelength, incident frequency, incident energies are different. Look, these are those. This energy is the simple h nu one. But these energies which are present within, these are different. That's why we are marking not to differentiate it. So from here, we can get the energy as E is equal to nu naught, or we can use the formula hc by lambda naught, right? Energy is itself, work function is phi naught and all like this. These are for the threshold. But Einstein modified. Einstein added one more component. He said that in these metal surface, these electrons are present. That is right. Okay. These electrons are present. But what happens when this incident ray falls on this? This is the incident ray. Incident ray with its normal wavelength, normal frequency, normal energy is falling on it. The electrons collide also among themselves. Means the electrons move within this also. This electron will be moving here, moving here. And as soon as movement comes, which kind of energy comes in the system?
Kinetic.
Kinetic energy. So there will be some kinetic energy. Okay, incident ray came, electrons moved. Due to movement, you have kinetic energy in your system. Then what is happening? These electrons are getting ejected. Though this process is instantaneous, it takes just 10 to the power minus 9 seconds for this to occur. We are studying in detail, so we are talking about it slowly. And it gets ejected. And here, this ejected electron, which is coming out, this had its own threshold wavelength, threshold frequency, and threshold work function, right? Or work function, you can even limit these things. This is, he said, Einstein added that there is this in between, this kinetic energy. So when you are equating all the energies, why are you leaving this kinetic energy? If incident energy is equal to h nu, and further we are seeing the work function, the energy of this electron is phi naught, which is the work function. What is work function? Minimum energy, right? Minimum energy that is required by the electrons to move. So if you are including, if you are saying this energy of the incident ray is exactly equal to work function, this is incorrect. You need to include this kinetic energy also. Means now the total energy of this incident ray will be equal to work function of this. Means this part is this and this were already included. He said you have to add this kinetic energy also. And this was the equation formed. Now you can write anything for these equations. Like if you have this, E is equal to phi naught plus kinetic energy. Now you can write any formula for this depending upon your question. For example, this means, see, for energy, incident energy, if frequency is given, use h nu. If wavelength is given, use hc by lambda. For work function means this energy, energy of the threshold. So use h nu naught or use hc by lambda naught, because work function is the threshold one. This is the threshold energy. So it will be using the threshold frequency, threshold work function, this one. This is included. Depending upon your question, you can frame any equation now. And for kinetic energy, you can see normal formula of what is the general formula of kinetic energy if mass is m. Yes, Meera, you tell.
Half mv square.
Half mv square. So for the maximum kinetic energy, you can use maximum velocity half mv square. There is one more formula which you can use is E into V, means charge multiplied to potential. Your kinetic energy is E into V. This is the charge. This is the potential. Okay, now you can modify and make several equations using any combinations. Remember this, that's it. You will be able to solve any question that comes. If your electron is at rest, your kinetic energy will be 0 and the theory before that will be valid. This one will be valid. This will be 0. See, for example, if a question says, let's say the question says, the incident energy's frequency is given. So we can use this h nu is equal to, let's say the threshold frequency is given. So for work function, we can use this. And let's say velocity is given, or let's say voltage is given. So we can use this. So out of it, whatever is given, you keep on making the equations. From here, you apply this, whatever unknown quantity is there, you can apply this. You can make this combination hc by lambda plus h nu naught is equal to half mv squared like this. For kinetic energy, you need to subtract the energy and work function. Basically, you need to know, see, only these variables are given in the question. Either the frequency or wavelength of incident will be given. Whatever is given, you choose this. For the threshold, either the threshold frequency or threshold wavelength will be given. If not, it will directly give you the work function. Then directly use this. No need to use these. For kinetic energy, either the kinetic energy directly will be given, or the charge will or potential will be given. You can multiply it with E and get kinetic energy, or velocity will be given. You can use this and get kinetic energy. If not, direct values will be given. You can use this equation. Is it clear, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, write down this
Yes.
part and then we'll just see some graphs and then we'll come to the questions.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, let's see some graphs. Graphs directly come in the exam. So this is from your NCRT only. Graphs are drawn in the register also. But see, these few graphs are very important because this graph introduces to you to the concept of stopping potential. What happens is there's a potential. Let's say there's a current that is the normal current that is coming from your tube. Basically, your evacuated tube looks like this. There's an outlet. This is how it looks like. Here the cathode is placed. Here the anode is placed. So the light rays come to here and the electrons get ejected towards anode. This is the whole evacuated experiment, so that you can have a look on. Now, for different potentials, stopping potential basically means for which the current, stopping potential is basically the retarding potential. This retarding potential is the stopping potential, for which, see, when you increase the value, they become negative. And for one current, there are different values stopping potential. You keep on increasing the value of stopping potential. See, all will lead to the same value of current. And this current is one value for all of it, which is called as the saturation current. But how the questions come? Questions come from this. It will give you three values and it will ask you this arrangement. Four options will be there. V1 greater than V2 greater than V3. V3 greater than V2 greater than V1. 2 equal greater than 1 like this. So, you know, this, the last one will have the higher value. This will have the higher value, but the amount of current it will give will be the same. That is yours. This part will depict the saturation current. So this graph is important. Then here in this graph, the frequency is kept constant. In this graph, the frequency is kept constant. So this is the stopping potential. Okay, here frequency was kept constant. Different intensities were obtained. Stopping potential was the same. For the same one value of stopping potential was set and current was obtained. So you can see different intensities are coming for it. Here the frequency was kept constant. So what is important again? I3 greater than I2 greater than I1. This comes in the exam to write. Then you have the question, okay, one graph is okay, in this graph class, intensity is kept constant. Okay, in this intensity is kept constant. That's why the saturation current is obtained here. Now, these are the values of saturation current here, but see, these are different. This is again, this will become the saturation current. But see, these are different for it. So this you can relate. Now, these are two important graphs. This has come as theoretical sentence. These graphical questions have come in the form of statements, assertion, reasoning questions. Statement 1 and 2 are given. 1 is true, 2 is false, like this. And just theoretical based statements have come from these graphs. So what you should know, first of all, let's discuss this graph. This graph basically says that when you increase the amount of photocurrent, so what happens? Number of photoelectrons increases, number of photoelectrons increases, so intensity increases. So remember, intensity is only depending upon the number of photoelectrons and nothing else. This statement is very important. I'll write it also. You will see in some questions. It is relating to kinetic energy. The question will say, but no, remember, your intensity and number of photoelectrons are directly proportional to each other. Kinetic energy is independent of this intensity. Also, kinetic energy is independent of the frequency. This is frequency. This is not velocity. This is frequency. This is kinetic energy versus frequency graph. Kinetic energy is independent of the frequency. So these two are very important graphs. Their conclusions should be remembered by you. How the kinetic energy is depending. This is one of the law of the photoelectric effect also. That when you increase the photoelectric current, the intensity of the light keeps on increasing. And this is directly proportional. You can check. This is giving you a straight line graph also. Now this is very important. This graph is between the stopping potential and the frequency. So see, this relates to your normal sentence of not normal equation of your stopping potential. What is the kinetic? See, we discussed that the energy is equal to the work function plus the kinetic energy. So from here I can say the kinetic energy is equal to energy minus the work function, right? What is the formula of kinetic energy in terms of potential? Upasna, you tell me. You've written how much?
EV.
Your voice is coming very low, Upasna. Can you repeat?
EV.
Yes, right. EV. So here our potential is stopping potential. So we are going to use this as EV naught, where V naught is what? Your stopping potential. E is the electronic charge. This is energy, right? We can write this energy as h nu hc by lambda, but since we are talking about the frequency, we will write this as h nu, okay, when nu is the frequency, minus the work function as it is. Work function we are using as it is. Now, if I divide by E, if I divide this whole equation by E, look, this is EV naught is equal to h nu minus work function. If I divide this by E, this whole by E. Look, this EE will be cancelled. Now what is obtained? V naught is equal to H E into nu minus phi naught by E is obtained. If you compare it with the linear, see it's a straight line graph. If you compare it with this equation mx plus c, look what are we getting? Look what we are getting. From this equation, your slope, what is the slope of the graph? H by E. So that's why the slope, which is equal to m, it is written as H by E. Your x-axis is your frequency. So this is frequency written. Now C, what is C? C is the y-intercept, right? This is the y-intercept, correct? This part. So this is plus C. So we will include this negative sign. So this becomes your y-intercept. Look, y-intercept means it is intercepting the y-axis at which place. So look, the y-intercept is minus phi by E. So your C in this equation is minus phi by E. And your y-axis, y is V naught. The graph is between V naught and frequency. So y is V naught, x is frequency. You obtain this equation. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, class, just write down this part. No need to write the rest of the things. Just write, just make these two also because we'll be seeing. Then I'll start with the questions of modern physics. Tomorrow, I'll take the questions of atomic structure, nuclear structure from the recent papers first I'll take, and some questions from the rest of it. And few questions of modern physics also we'll discuss tomorrow. 1 or 2 questions that we'll not be able to discuss today. So please, again, I'm saying revise this unit and come. Atomic structure and nuclear structure, please revise it properly because you are going to answer the rest of the things. And if you're able to solve the questions, it will only give you a preparation. It will give you a feedback how your preparation is going on. Write down this and we'll discuss the questions. More than the numericals, from dual nature, theoretical questions have come this year a lot. And numericals have come from your atomic structure.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, let's see the first question. So this is a question from 2025 only, 29th Jan. Okay. This is given below are two statements. One is labeled as assertion and means assertion reasoning question. Now you are going to actively participate in this. Try to answer. Assertion says electromagnetic waves carry energy, but not momentum. Have we seen any equation where energy had the relationship between momentum? Is it true or false?
False.
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 Remember, we saw the formula E is equal to PC. They carry the momentum. So this statement is incorrect. Electromagnetic waves carry energy, they carry momentum. Okay, when it is saying mass, second is it is saying reason is that mass of a photon is 0. See, mass means the rest mass. So rest mass of photon is 0. That we discussed also using the equation. When you see this equation, m is equal to m naught under root 1 minus v square by c square, rest mass of photon is 0. So this is correct. So this will be A is false, B is true. But this is not satisfying this, right? This is not explaining this. Right, this part is not explaining this, that the rest mass, first of all, the statement is incorrect. So this has an explanation. So this will be second option. Okay, write it.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, let's move to the next question. So this is a question from your 24th Jan 2025. See, this is what the question I was referring to. These kinds of questions come directly. The energy E and momentum P of a moving body of mass m are related by some equation. So see, momentum energy is equal to mc square and energy is equal to pc also. But when we're talking about the resting mass will be m naught. Right now, this resting mass is given as m. So that equation which you have written is m only. Class, tell me what is the answer to this question. Both of you answer in the chat column. Don't unmute. Yes, Meera, right? Upasna, I'm waiting for your answer. Correct. D option. D will be right. Your energy will be PC whole square plus MC square whole square. This is what we wrote in the theoretical part. So when you actually open the bracket, it will be P square C square plus M square C to the power 4. So D option. Write down this too.
Done, ma'am.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, let's come to the next question. Okay, so this is from your section B on 24th Jan 2025 only. Ratio of the power of a light source S1 is S1 to that of the light source S is 2. It is saying S1 is emitting 2 into 10 to the power 15 photons per second at 600 nanometer. See, this is the question number of photons. This is relating to the question of number of photons and the power. Yeah. So this is saying the ratio of power of a light source S1 to that of the source S2 is 2. So if you relate both of these, this is S1, this is S2, this is given as 2. The ratio of the powers, P1 by P2. Right? P1 by P2 is given as 2. Then it is saying S1 is emitting 2 into 10 to the power 15 photons. The number of photons are present. This is 2 into 10 to the power 15 photons per second at 600 nanometer. Okay, this is saying per second at 600 nanometer means the wavelength is given. Number of photons are given for first source. N1 is given 2 into 10 to the power 15 photons. Wavelength lambda 1 is given 600 nanometer. If the wavelength of the source S2 is 300, means this lambda 2 is given as 300 nanometer. What is the value of N2? This is missing. Upasna, tell me a method. How should I start?
We can use the formula for number of photons by is equal to power by energy.
Yes, correct. We will use number of photons is equal to power by energy. We are going to use this formula only. That's why I told you that formula is very important. This comes directly in the exam also. Meera, energy is not given. Upasna told me to use this formula of energy. How should we solve it now?
We'll take the formula of energy in terms of wavelength, hc by lambda.
Hc by lambda, very good. So number of photons will be power divided by hc by lambda. See, hc, this will be constant. Simply you can use n2 by n1 will be, see, power will come up. So p2 by p1. Wavelength will also come up. So this will be lambda 2 by lambda 1. hc, which will be up and down, they will be cancelled. What do we want? We want n2. So P2 by P1, what should I write, Upasna?
1 by 2.
1 by 2. This is given P1 by P2. This is 1 by 2. Lambda 2 is 300. Nanometer will also be cancelled. And lambda 1 is 600. This gets cancelled. This is 2. 1 by 4. N2 will be N1 into N2 will be N1 divided by 4. Okay, this you can then calculate. That will come out to be 5 only, right? This is 2 into 10 to the power 15. So 10, if you divide it by 2, that will come out to be 5 because it will be 20 by 4, right? If I write N1 as 20 into 10 to the power 14 by 4, 20 by 4 will be 5 into 10 to the power 14. So this is 5. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Write it.
Done.
Done.
Okay. Let's see the next question. This says, in an experiment with photoelectric effect, the stopping potential, now 4 statements are given. So this is from the 29th Jan, this year's paper only. Increases with increase in wavelength of incident light. No, remember, this is wrong. The stopping, when your frequency increases, your stopping potential increases, but your wavelength decreases. So increase is not possible. And decreasing with wavelength, the option is not given. Second, increases with increasing intensity, no. Remember, we kept the intensity constant for the experiment. Because your stopping potential does not depend on intensity. Intensity remains constant. Frequency changes, but intensity remains constant. So increases with increase in intensity, incorrect. Is 1 by E times kinetic energy? Yes. See, kinetic energy is equal to EV naught. So V naught is equal to kinetic energy by E. So this is right. In decreases with increase in intensity. Intensity remains constant. Is this clear? Statement based?
Yes, ma'am.
So C is the right answer. Write it. So these are from your, this was from your evening shift. 29 Jan's evening shift. So these kinds of questions are coming this year. So just prepare the basics of NCERT. You'll be able to manage the questions. De Broglie's wavelength, I'll take them tomorrow. Time is up. Just one more question. Let me discuss with photoelectric effect. De Broglie wavelength, we'll not be able to do it today.
Done.
Done?
Done, ma'am.
Okay, let's see one more question. See, this says the work functions of cesium and lithium are given. Phi work function means the minimum energy that is required. So for cesium, it's 1.9 electron volt. Work function for lithium, this is 2.5 electron volt, respectively, right? If we incident a light of wavelength 550 nanometers on these two metal surfaces, then the photoelectric effect is possible for the case of, see, 1240 is HC. When you write no, E is equal to HC by lambda, you get the value of energy. This HC in terms of nanometer is 1240 nanometer. So 1240 divided by 550 nanometer. This will be 124 for some 2.2 something, right? This will come 2.22 something electron volt. So cesium is having the less. Okay, answer, both of you. Tell me which option should be the right one. If this is something 2.22.
Lithium only.
Lithium only.
Only cesium.
No, cesium only.
Yes. Cesium only. Only, see, lithium will not be. Right, this is 2.5. This is having a higher requirement. If 2.22 means anything below this will work, na? So cesium is having lesser of this, right? Please write down this question. This was from your 22nd Jan 2025. This question was from the morning shift. Write it. Rest of it we'll discuss it in the next class. Tomorrow, please revise and come. We'll practice questions only. Theoretical part should be done. De Broglie's wavelength, one or two things I have to tell you, which are not there in the notes, that I'll tell you tomorrow. Atomic structure and nuclear structure, they are exactly the same.